Welcome to Chartloop's growth series. Today we have with us Mike Berckenhoff, account manager at Puffer-Sweiven down in Houston, Texas. Beyond his enterprise sales role, he's also a community leader on Fishbowl, which is an awesome community which we will discuss. Welcome, Mike.
Hey, welcome, Sean, and howdy. Thank you for having me today.
So you describe yourself on LinkedIn as an automation consulate for production facilities. So tell us a little about yourself and what you do.
Absolutely. So as you mentioned, I work for a company, Puffer-Sweiven. We are based in the Houston area. We help our process plants within the area kind of with their automation challenges. And so specifically, I represent my customers within the Emerson network for control systems and reliability or machine monitoring. And the whole idea is to find their challenges and marry them up with our solutions. As you mentioned, yes, I am a Fishbowl community leader as well. Fishbowl is an excellent app that allows folks to communicate with some anonymity on topics that they find in their industry.
Totally. So it sounds like, I mean, Puffer-Sweiven, like, what industries are you guys selling into? And is this a very technical sales? Like, do I need to be an engineer just in order to be able to start a conversation with a potential customer?
No, you don't have to be an engineer, although it seems that our particular field draws a lot of engineers. But truth be told, I'm a scientist, actually. My degree is in animal science. So I'm nowhere near engineering, but I do have, a thought process that helps me with my industry. It is a technical sale, so there is an aspect to it that is very technical. However, we have a great network of subject matter experts that if you can't dive deep enough into a technical discussion, there is always someone there that can come and help you out and help lead that process forward. But to get back to more of the question, I'm in sales. So my job is to find that business challenge for individuals and help them along their process of getting it solved. And so that would include a technical aspect and a business aspect of it. And my job is to work on both those planes, then come in with a consensus so that we can help that buyer along in their buyer journey.
Right. No, that's fascinating. So we'll talk a little more about, the different communities for sellers and enterprise sellers. But tell me a little bit about, what is it like to sell into this industrial world? So I come from, the world of tech, right? So selling to all these, upstarts and startups. Is it very different? Like, do you need to speak a different lingo? Do you need to understand, come from the industry? Tell me a little about it.
So yeah, I mean, with every industry and every market we're pursuing, you need to adopt their language. And I would go as far as to say, as every company that you're pursuing, you need to adopt their language. They're going to have their own terminologies, their own acumen of phrases they use and ideas that they have. And as sellers, there is plenty of information out there on the folks we're looking at, and you need to go out there and research that because they're going to expect that that. If I'm talking to a power plant, they have a set of terms that's completely different than an oil refinery. That's different from a chemical plant. If I'm going into someone who's doing, factory production line type work, they have a specific idea of what they want to know. And so I need to know those terms and kind of adapt myself to them. Much like the idea of sales and SaaS, software as a service, those folks have to talk, a certain way to their customers so the customers understand what they're saying. And we can even get more germane than that. If I'm talking to an operations, technically minded person, that's completely different than an IT type individual. And so I need to know how to convey what my solution can do for them in their language so they understand.
Yeah, absolutely. And in terms of your space and thinking of more of the macro terms. So in the last few years, like reshoring back to the States has been big. And I know, Texas is famous for the oil industry. Are you seeing any of those, macro trends, or maybe something related to COVID, which is changing how the industry is coping?
Yeah, no, it's interesting. We can get in Corona in a second, but it's interesting the level of production that's gone up in the Texas area. Yes, we have an oil and gas market, and I'm heavily tied to it in my sales pursuits. But specifically, that market also allows for cheap energy, to where we see some really interesting organizations showing up in Texas. We have plastic plants. It's pretty obvious. If you have cheap natural gas, you're going to have plastic plants, and there's some great ones here. We have an oil and gas industry. The oil refining industry. It's been here forever. It's not going to go anywhere, and they're doing great. But you see some interesting characters showing up. One specifically I saw was an organization from Europe that came into Texas because of cheap energy, and they're producing little iron briquettes. They look like little charcoal briquettes you would have on your grill, but it's solid iron. I never knew such a thing existed, and because of cheap energy, they're coming to Texas. And for the most part, the U.S., we're seeing a lot of manufacturing come back to the U.S. and it's always interesting. There's these internet stores that are popping up, selling specific products that I don't know if we would have seen, 5-10 years ago. But with the adoption of some, new technology platforms, as well as, manufacturing automation, they're able to compete within the U.S. and world market. Now, as far as Corona is concerned, yeah, there have been some changes. Obviously, I'm working from home, as most everyone else is here in the U.S. and still in Texas. Access to our customers has been more virtual than physical. We got kind of used to that physical connection, but over the past year, it's been very virtual. And we are coming up on a year. We're second week of February? It was really March 16th. March 16th when Texas and the U.S. kind of went in lockdown, and we stayed that way through the greater part of last year. But organizations are retooling. We're seeing some of our smaller chemical plants make hand sanitizer and go into that market. There's one plant we have pretty local to my location, Ascend. And their headquarters, or one of their headquarters, I believe, is in Houston. I'm not sure if that's their world headquarters, but Ascend came up with a great product that you can apply to a face mask, and it makes it more sterile. It makes it less resistant to attracting those foreign agents, bacteria, and viruses. So, no, we're definitely moving that direction. I would couple some of the climate initiatives from around the world coming into play as well. I always love researching organizations in Texas, and we see Valero opening up renewable biodiesel refineries in the eastern part of Texas, and really making an impact in that market. So it's exciting times in the U.S. and specifically in Texas. Right.
Absolutely. So it's good. A year ago, everybody was thinking doom and gloom, like, the economy is going to shatter, and here we are, maybe in our homes, in our office, home office, but we're still pumping away, as we might say.
Absolutely.
So let me ask you something else. Okay, so you told us a little about what you're selling, the space. So a lot of growth despite a very challenging year for everybody. Let's talk a little bit about your sales methodology. So our community of sellers, at Chartloop, a lot of them are, I'd say, very similar to you in the enterprise world. Do you have like your own mantra, or what does your process look like when you're trying to go after one of these very large accounts that you're trying to go after?
Yeah, no. So it's kind of interesting. The first few years in my outside sales world were very, very haphazard. As I mentioned before, we learned a lot of things from hard knocks and picking up a little tidbit here. And we might read a book, or our company might send us to a sales training. But if you don't reinforce those ideas, what you learned from the book, what you picked up from the training, if you can't reinforce those ideas, they're just going to go away, and you're going to fall back into your old habits. And so a few years ago, I set out on a journey to find mentors. I'm like, I want to find people that I can follow on a pretty regular basis that can help me build out this process. And I found some great podcasts that are out there. Once again, we found some great books. Emerson's nice enough to send us to a specific sales training they have. And it was all great stuff. But I'm like, I really need, I'm not an engineer, but there is an engineer part of my mind. And I'm like, I really need a process in place to follow. And I did find one individual that taught a process. And I'm like, yes, I'm going to follow that because he has a lot of similarities in what he's saying to what I've been reading and what I've been taught. And I kind of adopted his process. So his process focuses on, first attracting our network or our clientele. So, you're not going to come in there and do a LinkedIn post that shows your product, has a picture of your product and says, here's what it does. Write me or comment or call me if you want more information. I have never heard of that actually working. If it does, I'd love to hear how it worked for somebody, but I've never heard of that working. In fact, when I read it, I cringe. I'm like, oh, it just feels too, salesy. I just don't like that, man. I don't like that. So he teaches an idea of, well, you need to come in organically. How do you connect with people in the world? It's like, well, I would start with a small conversation or a small comment. And he's like, great, that's how we start. Let's start with a small conversation, a small comment, just to get on the radar, and then as they get comfortable with that, we'll ask them a question. And from that kind of engagement of building that relationship, we move into, a business pursuit. We found a potential business challenge they have that your solution can meet. Well, you're not still going to come out and hit them across the head with your features and benefits. You're going to try and build that curiosity, then build the interest, and then have some urgency around that. So first I'm going to ask some questions that are only meant to build curiosity, have nothing to do with my product. I'm curious about their industry, their little part of the puzzle and what's going on inside of it. And then once we start hearing some feet or some key terms that can point back to my solution, I'm going to ask some interest questions. Well, what are you doing here? How are you doing that? Kind of getting that interest build up towards what I can offer. And then once we're in agreement, we come up with some urgency. Like, well, okay, by us not helping you here, what does that mean for you on a business standpoint? How much money are you losing by not looking at this at least, or even going with it? And so once we lock that in, then we have a project or a business pursuit. And from there, we're going to first formulate a technical solution. So technically, what is this product going to do for you? What problems is it going to solve? But then there's another aspect to it, and that's the business part. And people need to understand those two parts are separate, but they need to both be in your conversation. So don't just talk to the technical people and don't just talk to the business people. If you want to get your solution in there, you need to be talking to both, because you're helping both of them understand what you can do for them and how it's going to make their business better. And once we can build that all together and build that consensus among both teams, then the purchase order is just another step to that process. And we get it in, we get it implemented, and then we come back and we show them what we did for them. And whether you're doing my sales and large processes, or you're doing SaaS, if you're doing business to business, that's in there. I could even go as far as saying, if you're buying a house, I bet that process is in play there. Your buying committee might be a little bit smaller between two individuals, but there's still some discussions there.
Totally. No, this is fascinating. So with your sales, like how many, typical accounts are you going after, whatever, quarterly or yearly, just to understand better kind of the size? Yeah. So
geographically, I have one of the larger territories for my company, and it's just space-wise, but that doesn't mean that it's industry dense as some of my fellow coworkers. So I do have a larger territory. I counted them up, and it's about 63 accounts that I have been engaging with on a somewhat regular basis. Now that doesn't mean that every one of those 63 accounts has a project going on, or I'm focusing all of my attention on all 63. You know, it kind of fluctuates. I make sure that I'm always available for them, and that I try and give them some bit of value on a regular basis. But for the most part, you know, you'll have 10 to 20 within your system that are actively pursuing a project that you can help them work on.
Right. So within these, you know, 63 accounts that you have that you're going after, are some of them a lot smaller, some of them a lot larger, and then for the bigger ones, like do you create some sort of an account plan specific to each one?
Yes, you're correct. There is definitely, you know, a size factor in some of these accounts, just by nature of their process. You know, some are larger, some are bigger. You know, am I talking to a smaller chemical plant that, you know, only is responsible for one or two chemicals, or am I talking to a refinery that's shipping, you know, a large amount of petro products out of it on a daily basis? And so obviously those change. As you get into account plan, yes, there are some accounts that are a little bit more strategic than others. And for those, I do form a plan. I can share something if you're interested in seeing it.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So we're all about methodology and, you know, helping other sellers to kind of, you know, learn their own, improve their own skills. So I'd love that.
So this is this is a product I use called Mindmeister. It's a mind map program, and absolutely love it because it's how I formulate all my ideas. And so for you know, for display purposes, I have a mock account plan, and so we're like, okay, you know, we got this account, and we're interested in it, and let's just take a look at it and see what we can do. And so I'll go into my individual bubbles here that I need to do. So let's start with goals. What goals do I have for this account? As I mentioned, I cover automation and reliability. So we'll just focus on automation since both of them are the same. So I have two types of goals. I have strategic goals and I have tactical goals. Strategic goals can be thought of long-term goals. What long-term goals do I have with this customer? You know, yep. What do I want to help them with that I think can directly contribute to them making the world a better place? And then for each one of these strategic goals will be tactical goals. So obviously I don't have any strategic goals in this mock, but if I did, each one of those goals would have its own little tactical goal. So a tactical goal is just short term. And then for each one of those short terms, you know, what are the challenges of that goal? What pain are we trying to solve, and what are the symptoms of that pain? You know, very solution sales based type methodology going on here. You know, discover what the symptoms are that addresses the pain of your customer, and then each pain feeds into another group. But then let's look at the timeline. You know, what in my head do I think is the timeline for solving this challenge, and how is that going to directly contribute to this overall strategic goal? How will getting this done in a timely manner help this goal, what I'm trying to do? Generally, a tactical goal will focus around some type of feature or benefit of a product or a product itself. So we may need a reference story. Now, I should note that the tactical goal doesn't necessarily have to be a specific product. You know, it could be something as simple as, I need to get an audience with this person, you know, and we can work from there. But if it is around a product, what are the reference stories? You know, how can I take my customer and have them see themselves in a position that using my product will benefit them? You know, kind of build that vision, another solution sales term. And then what team members am I going to need to help me achieve that? You know, and that's anybody within my organization or Emerson or outside of that, will I need to have help me do that. And so that's just building the goals. Well, then we get into contacts. Who are some of the people I need to know? Here I have common business opened up. And so these are the people, we may need to be looking at. If I'm in a plant, I need to talk to a plant manager. If I'm doing a business discussion, I better be talking to legal and procurement because they're extremely important to what we're doing.
Totally.
And then we go into kind of where y'all fit in and where your solutions is the organizational chart. And so I'll take,
Totally.
my organizational chart that I've built in your platform and put it right in here, and with a little link that I can get to it easily. But, understanding that organizational chart is key to understanding where you need to be talking to and who do you need to be talking to and who do we need to be working with so that we can get the customer what they need. And then we can go into customer specific.
Do you have any
internal things?
Yeah, so just a quick question in terms of like how many people within an account do you typically try to reach out to? Do you have a certain like number? For a large account, I want to reach out to at least 10 people to get a conversation going, or if you have any benchmark around that.
So I don't have a benchmark. I fully believe, the more people you're talking to at your account, the more you'll be able to help them. It's interesting. I've worked with accounts that have, had a plant on this side of town, and a plant on the other side of town. And though they're in the same city, they don't know who each other are. So I found it interesting that some of the value I was bringing their organization is I was bringing, not necessarily information that shouldn't have been shared between groups, but just, some general automation, reliability information from what one group over here is doing to what one group over here is doing. And in some cases, even connecting, coworkers of the same company together. I'm like, hey guys, let's just meet in the middle and we'll all go to lunch so y'all can meet each other and have that communication flow.
Totally.
Yeah.
Totally. Very cool. No, this is a fascinating process. And do you do this for every one of your accounts, or like does this have to be like a sizable one to actually warrant your account plan?
Yeah, I mean, once again, all my customers are special to me, and I try and give them as much attention as possible to help them meet their challenges. But it just, there are some accounts that are larger than others and that have more strategic goals that need to be looked at. And so that's the account that I'll come up and make a plan like this with.
Right. Fascinating. And how does this, or does this, kind of interact with your CRM? Like, where does the information live, and like, where do you, Mike, spend most of your day? Are you in your CRM or in your account plans?
So the CRM drives my task for the day. That's how I set up. What am I going to do? My priority list. It's my action plan. When I wake up, there are certain actions I got to take, whether that's get my morning jog in, when I was doing CrossFit, it was hit the gym, so that's personal. So now we get to professional of, okay, what do I need to do? How am I going to prioritize those actions and get through them? So I do that part inside of my CRM. Now that CRM might have a task of, well, you need to go look at your account plan. You need to go look at your mind map for this project and figure out what's going on and how you can progress to that goal based upon what you need to do today.
Totally. Fascinating. This is really a great way, to kind of lay things out visually and come up with new ideas, as you mentioned. Any others? I see we got a few other modules. Anything else you want? Any other angles of this to share?
I mean, not really. It's, each one of these modules, it's here's for my sales calls. I have a whole little section for prospecting and my specific sales questions, call checklist. Before I go on a call, here's the things I got to run through. If it's a first call, that gets its own little bubble because that's a special call. Any post-call reviews. So after I go on a call review, my play-by-play is literally the roadmap of what I need to do to go from one stage to another in a business pursuit. This is, my protocol for my sales process, so that I can help my customers stay on track, and so that I can stay on track of where we're at and where we need to go. And then, yeah, this is just qualified business results. So if we have any awesome stories from that customer, I'll log them in here so I can share them with the rest of the organization. Any projects that we're working on, that'll have its own. And then this is just my general process information.
Love it. No, this is fantastic. So this is like you've developed your own, your own operating system for your own sales,
Yeah. I'm a very visual person, and I need that step-by-step guide. I'm the goofball that's sitting there reading the IKEA instructions to make sure I'm building that cabinet correctly. I'm not just gonna try and wing it. I have to have step-by-step instructions. And so as we go back to, how I got started with this is I was very haphazardly walking through a sales process, and I didn't know what I needed to do next. And this was frustrating, for both myself, because I couldn't accurately articulate where in a sales process I was. I imagine it was frustrating for my management. They couldn't rely on me on forecasts because I can't tell you where I'm at. I don't know, with what level of certainty this project's going to come in. And more so, if I'm working a process and all of a sudden something needs to happen on a timeline, if this step needs to happen by this date and it doesn't, warning, we got a problem here. There's something going on that needs to be addressed. I need to realign with my customers' expectations to see if they're still in line with what I'm doing.
Right. No, that's very cool. So yeah, definitely people should definitely check out Mindmeister, and we should, maybe follow some of your tips on building an account plan. And I think you should white label this. Obviously yours is specialized for your industry and your process, but I think everybody should be using their own account plan and know exactly where they are and not need to wing every step of the sales process.
No, absolutely. As I said before, though, is even though, yes, we're all selling different products to different people, to different industries, if we're doing business to business, and specifically, not even specifically, but really on a higher level, enterprise type sales, that is engaging with multiple individuals in that buyer's journey, then yeah, there's a technical and there's a business part, and each one of those has its own little special nuances. But you work those two angles and build that consensus, and then you can help your buyer get exactly what they need to make them more profitable.
Totally. Awesome. So this is really fascinating and very educational to me on the sales methodology side. Maybe let's switch gears and talk a little bit about community and social. So Fishbowl is something that's fascinated me. I've been a part of that community for about a year, and I've recently, a couple months ago, joined your Sales Bowl, which you founded about a year ago. Tell us a little bit about what Fishbowl is, because I think probably most people listening to this aren't there yet, and specifically what happens on the sales community.
Yeah, so if I may, I have to backtrack one of your statements. I didn't create the Sales Bowl. I actually did create a bowl called Sales, or someone else did, I think. I think I created another bowl that had sales in it, but it wasn't a sanctioned Fishbowl bowl. It was kind of a community created one, which once again, Fishbowl is a great app, social platform for business professionals to where you can do that. I've seen company specific bowls. I created one for mine, but we don't have enough to get it kicked off. But Salesforce, the mighty Salesforce, they have a whole bowl to where their community can talk to each other, and individuals from throughout their whole ecosystem can communicate and understand better what each other is doing. So Sam Sneidman works for Fishbowl, and he was nice enough to invite me to be a community bowl leader. And it was for the Sales Bowl, and that's a bowl they created, like I said, about a year ago. And so what this bowl is a group of people, a group of sales individuals, professionals that get together with a level of anonymity. You know, you can say, I'm just an account manager. You can say the name of the company you work for. Or if you really want to, you can reveal yourself if you think you need to either ask a question or share a bit of knowledge or build some kind of content within there. Mostly in the Sales Bowl, we're asking questions based around, you know, what someone's done in a certain situation, sales wise, some career advice, a lot of career advice. You know, I'm a sales guy that's been selling in this industry for 14 years, and I'm thinking about going over here. What do y'all say to that? You know,
Totally.
and kind of going down that road. I like to put up sales tips and topics, any tools, Chartloop, you know, we put it in there so that folks can go and look at them and just learn from each other. And it's all done in a nice, you know, safe environment. Kind of give a little pitch for the Fishbowl team. They just started creating these live sessions. And so they actually do have a session with a professional within a certain, you know, industry, a certain silo that can go over a certain topic. You know, we've seen working from home. I think I just saw one for folks that are looking at GMAT or GRE recommendations. They're going to have a professional on there talking about that. And so it's a great platform.
Totally. So they should definitely be doing a live stream on sales with you, I think.
I think you have to do it through the app, and I'm one of those Android users. And so I haven't quite figured out how to get it working on the Android. I'll have to talk to Sam about it, but I'm pretty sure it all works on Apple. But yeah, as soon as I can get it working, there's a couple I have in mind that I would love to get these individuals on to talk about their perspective on the sales world.
Yeah, and tell me how is this, you know, Fishbowl in general differ than Reddit? I mean, Reddit also has like different communities, usually right, anonymous. There's sales. How would you compare the two?
Yeah, I mean, Reddit's an awesome place. That platform, you know, is linking people all over the place with different ideas. And you know, a couple of weeks ago, they had its own little spot in the news. So no, I have my Reddit board. Not so little, yeah. No, I have my Reddit boards. I'm into mountain biking, so we got the mountain biking board, and I think there's a Houston board I follow. So you know, I keep up with those. But for Fishbowl, it once again is very specific to your career. So if you're in sales, you're just going to see these sales type bowls. You know, real estate, sales, obviously. Some of the consulting apps. If I'm a teacher, you know, I'm just going to see those education type bowls and not be able to see the other ones. And so it kind of allows you to stay within your lane and not venture into other ones. So what it ends up building is it concentrates these professionals in one place. So when we are sharing ideas, they're very cogent to what we're doing. You know, the value, I can go here and pull something away from this conversation instead of just, you know, oh, it's someone on LinkedIn, you know, selling a product that I didn't, you know, I accidentally connected with this person and I'm too lazy to disconnect with them. You know, this absolutely is, you know, based on what you're doing day to day.
Totally. So as a community, you know, leader, and also, you know, the comment that you started off with, like, you know, start organically, start with a small comment, with a small conversation. If I'm in any type of sales, how would you recommend, you know, I build my personal, you know, like presence online and communities on social?
Yeah. So there's a gentleman I follow, Justin Welsh, who's excellent at this. I mean, he is spot on with creating content that has value for a community. You know, so you're going to identify your community and the niche within that community, and then you're going to develop content around them. You know, so if you want to take an example, let's say you're a sales professional that, you know, wants to help with sales training and provide content for that. Well, you know, let's think through that. What do sales professionals have that's a problem for them? They can't meet their quota. or they can't forecast their number. Okay, well, that's that pain. We go back to the sales methodology. That's their pain.
Totally.
What's the symptoms of that? Well, I'm not meeting my quota because my boss is telling me I have to make 100 calls a day, and of those 100 calls a day, I may get 10 that actually talk to me, and then of those 10, no one wants to do anything about it. Well, okay, well, that's a pretty interesting symptom of that not making your quota. Well, what if I can create some content that explores that? What about instead of 100 calls a day, you take time that you would call 50 people and research 10 really good accounts. And then of those 10, come up with an individual strategy for each one, and then target them specifically, that specific target you're after. Let's talk to that person and give them something of value that they want to listen to. And I take all that information and I make so many posts out of it. And that's the content I'm sharing on LinkedIn or whatever social platform you have. And that's the value you bring to your community. But the second part of that, or another part of that, is don't stop. Yeah, you're going to go a month. And I've seen plenty of people do this. They come out of the gate strong and they are dropping, posts, and they're really good posts, and then they kind of taper off a bit. And then all of a sudden they disappear. You're like, whoa, where did Frank go? Frank was doing some awesome stuff over here. Where'd he go? Well, I half wonder if Frank didn't get burned out because, he only saw that he was getting 100 views a day or 200 views a day. But man, stick with it. And that's eventually going to start growing and growing to where you're helping more and more people with the challenges of them. So if we want to relate this back to our sales efforts, let's deliver that value to our audience that will help them out and allow you to become kind of a trusted partner in their exercises. So they come to you and ask you for information.
Right. And when you're describing this, for yourself, are you doing this on LinkedIn? I know you're definitely doing this on Fishbowl. Are you doing this on any other channels?
I keep LinkedIn professional. So if it is professional based, that's generally where you're going to see it, is on LinkedIn for me. I don't post that much. When time proceeds or time allows me to, I'll come up with something and put it in there. But here lately I've been busy, so I haven't been able to create that much content. But at the same time, I'm not really looking to build a big audience right away. I'm just kind of trucking along with it. Yeah, if I'm on Instagram or Facebook or any other social media platforms outside of Fishbowl, it's personal. Fishbowl would be the other professional one as well. But like I said, people don't know who I am.
Totally.
They might after this video, they might start figuring out who I am, but I generally like to stay a secret.
Absolutely. No, I love your passion plus, the humility behind this. So the group, the sales group is, the community is fantastic and really gives a lot of inspiration. And really, there's some very high quality people, from top companies like Oracle, Salesforce. So it feels like you really kind of, you step up a notch just being part of the community and absorbing.
Absolutely.
Cool. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I would add that, the sales community, especially on LinkedIn, I have found to be extremely helpful. And it's led me to a thought or an idea I've always had, but it's kind of been reinforced is, we all have gifts, we all have talents, and just share them with others, because it's amazing when you share your talents and gifts, other people are sharing theirs with you as well. And I've had some great people. Ron Massey comes to mind, who just, has gone the extra mile to help me understand some ideas about sales and figure it out.
Right. Absolutely. Fascinating. So maybe to wrap up here, so you've shared with us your account planning tool. What are some of your other favorite sales tools?
Sales tools, Pipedrive. I love Pipedrive. That has been my CRM for a while now. I think they hit unicorn status actually.
Yes.
And so, kudos to them, but they have delivered a product that absolutely just knocks it out of the park. I can't remember when I joined them. I want to say I'm coming up year and a half maybe
Mhm.
that I've been using Pipedrive, and yeah, everything I do is based upon what that thing or what that program tells me to do. But obviously, I programmed it myself. Mindmeister, as we have already gone into, and now
Totally.
definitely Chartloop is going to be in there
Thank you.
as one of my core products. Oh no, definitely. One of my goals is to help organizations on a much higher level. And for me to understand them, I've got to understand the organizations and build out that organizational chart. And Chartloop has been helping me with that here in the past few weeks.
That's really cool. And so you mentioned some sales leaders that you follow. You mentioned Justin Welsh, another one. Like who's somebody you follow for inspiration?
There are two gentlemen that I absolutely am locked into, and any tidbit of content they release, I consume. I just have to. And this is for sales. There's one other gentleman that I use for leadership, his organization for leadership. But for sales, Brian Burns. If y'all aren't out there following Brian's podcasts, he has, I think he has 3 or 4 now. The brutal truth about sales and selling. Go out there and look at it. He's the one that helped me with the sales process of actually writing down the process and the steps and walking through it and the technical and business aspect of it. He's the one that brought it all together for me. So
Nice.
he's a great mentor to look to. Jamal Reimer is another one.
Yeah.
If you know Jamal, man, Jamal is the man for mega deals. And that's where I want to go next is that mega deal, helping organizations, do cultural change within their groups. And Jamal is the man to just, speak the truth to it.
Absolutely. But you got to start with small deals, right?
Oh, absolutely. No, you do. And Brian helps you. I won't say small deals, but Brian helps you with those day-to-day transactions and those more strategic transactions, tactical and strategic. But if you want to go for the mega deal that's touching multiple parts of organization, that has a ton of team members on your side and theirs, Jamal's the one to listen to. The only other person I would recommend folks look into is Jocko Willett. Jocko's retired Navy SEAL officer, and his specialty is leadership. But even more than that, his specialty is discipline and how to be disciplined in your day-to-day activities, so that you can meet those strategic, those tactical and strategic goals. And he has a wealth of it. And he says any problem in a business always comes down to a leadership problem, whether that's an individual or a team. So I'd recommend him as well.
Absolutely. Okay, well, great picks over there, and yeah, a lot of inspiration there. So where can folks find you online and be join the Sales Fishbowl?
Yeah, Sales Fishbowl. Just go to the Fishbowl app. I had to write it down. Excuse me, fishbowlapp.com. Go there and register. It might take a bit, but they'll get you to where you need to be, and you can join the bowl. If you're sales, I'd love for you to join the Sales Bowl. Love to see you there. Folks can find me on LinkedIn. I generally check it once a day. If you send me a connection, I'll be nice enough to thank you for it and see how we can't help each other out. But yeah, that's generally where I'm at is LinkedIn, and you'll know it's me. I'm the one with the goofy little smiley face with a cowboy hat.
Yeah, definitely the Texan touch.
The Texan touch. You got that right.
Awesome, Mike Berckenhoff. This was really fantastic. We learned a ton, both on process and inspiration and community. So thank you so much for your time.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Sean.